Welcome, panelists, audience. Today we are discussing the changing investment landscape in for startups and scale-ups in the energy tech space. We have a very nice panel gathered, investors and also a startup. My name is Noortje van Heijst. I'm investment manager at Unknown Group. Unknown Group is a Dutch-based venture capital and business development firm. And in my work, I invest in startups. Not only energy, but energy is a big strategic priority of us. Before I introduce also the audience to the panel, I'd like to stress a bit the importance also of this topic. Because as you know, we really need clean tech and energy innovations to accelerate the energy transition that we're in. And to date, unfortunately, energy investments are still not aligned with the SDGs, while there's more and more capital on the market. There's a few reasons for that. Like the traditional energy sector is a bit reluctant to change. The investments that we have to make are capital intense, often hardware, and there's a lot of risks when you invest. But there's also changes, right? There's an increasing awareness of climate change. The COVID-19 crisis also changed a lot on the financial market and increased awareness. That's a few of the topics I would like to discuss today. But maybe first I will introduce you to the panel. On the left side, this is Margien Storm van Leeuwen from Quintech Energy. You're the Chief Commercial Officer. Can you maybe share a bit about yourself and about Quintech? What are you doing?
Well, thank you very much. Welcome everybody. My name is Margien Storm van Leeuwen, originally trained as a chemist. Had over 15 years experience in clean tech and new technologies for the energy transition. And since half year I'm co-founder and also the Chief Commercial Officer of Quintech. And that's a small Dutch company focusing on the development and the production of a new most advanced flywheel technology. And in fact this is a kinetic battery, especially as a shock breaker in the energy transition. So what we do is we have a storage facility for peak shaving, trading and stabilizing the grids with the property of we have over 350,000 cycles. So it's a storage facility which is very durable. So it's like storage beyond borders. That's in short.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Great that you're also here to maybe counteract some of the statements the investors will make and show us the startup perspective to it.
Perfect.
Okay, then let's go to my right, Leon Pilles, Managing Director of Energy Investment Management. Welcome. Can you maybe introduce yourself and share a bit about what you do?
Yeah, thank you. I'm working 30 years in the energy sector and also very interested in innovations in the sector. I think the first 15 years really making conventional power cleaner, and the last 15 years more in the renewable energy space. Worked a while with Start Green, one of the regional funds in the Netherlands, and there are some interesting experience when also about public financing energy startups. And these days also quite, what we learn in Europe bring to Southeast Asia. I think there is also a lot of developments starting, so it's quite interesting what we have learned in what we have learned in Europe to bring that also in that region, where you see a lot of, I think a lot of potential for innovations, but also a lot of human capital available that really want to contribute to that energy transition. And for me, I think a big driver is still that I find that the sector is quite was in past working in a bit in silos, and I think a system view is quite more important, and there are still a lot of innovations needed to really make that system change.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's maybe discuss those trends also in a second.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, can you maybe share a bit about yourself and Tilt Capital?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So very pleased to be with you all today. So I'm Nathaniel Krivine. On my side, so I spent a bit more than 10 years in Engie, so the French former power and gas monopoly. So I was trained as an engineer and in business. And right before the COVID, so I exited Engie to start my company with two partners, so Tilt Capital Partners. And we are raising a first fund dedicated to the energy transition in Europe. So investing in startups and scale-ups as an equity investor, and helping. So the view is to help them grow and reach scale and contribute to have the best possible impact on climate and energy transition. And a few months ago, we announced our partnership with CPRX. So we are now an affiliated company of CPRX, which is a French leader in private equity with over 3 billion euro assets under management. And so with my partners, we bring expertise in investment and energy, more than 50 years accumulated. And with our partner, we also have a strong capabilities and infrastructure for managing PE funds, so private equity funds.
Okay, thank you very much. Then Ulrich Seitz from Beba Renewable Energy Ventures. Could you introduce yourself and maybe share a bit?
Yeah, my name is Ulrich. I'm heading the venture capital activities of BioRE. BioRE is a global project developer for wind and solar. We also have a strong service business aside of that, and offer additional value through different business units. And with those business units, we are fostering the growth of our portfolio companies. So we invest typically in a very early stage, not too early. We don't do seed investments, but our sweet spot is around Series A or Series B. And usually we invest something between 1 to 5 million. We can larger tickets in later rounds, and we definitely see ourselves as a financially driven climate investor. Great to be here, and I'm really curious about our discussion now.
Thank you. Okay, so as I also shared a bit in the introduction, the energy sector and the industry is a long existing sector with some reluctance to also change, but there's a strong need for those innovative technologies. And I was wondering how you see how startups and scale-ups can overcome also the regulation and the slow-paced energy sector. And maybe to start with Margien, because you work a lot also on the commercial side.
Yeah.
How do you experience this, and what challenges do you see?
Well, the challenges I see is maybe on different areas. It's first of all to find good people, and sometimes it's legislation which is withholding markets to develop. Especially, I'm in the storage markets, and there is legislation that is really making it difficult to get the products on the market. But it's changing, and while it was a very young branch, so last years they started to work together internationally, but also in the Netherlands, and that's helping us because then we can lobby, we can make it visible. Another challenge is to find the right financial structure, and we had a certain vision on that. But I see it's not a challenge that has, in a sense that there's a lot of money, in fact, which is offered. But it is a challenge to get the right fit. And we really followed the example last year because we exist 2 years with our seed funding, where we started with the seed funding of step by step. We had the seed funding of our founder, which is Paul Vosbeek. And hereafter we had a small seed funding, which was a challenge, the NPILS challenge, which brought us a next step. That was the moment that we had the seed founding of Boeing. And all these small steps made us now today to the position in 2 years that we're ready for our Series A investment, which I will announce tomorrow, actually.
Very good.
But that's not-
Congratulations.
It's not a challenge that the money is not there, but it's
Yeah.
a challenge to find the right suppliers. And we were focusing on more the governmental parts in the first 2 years. And now we're going further. But we're not, although we have a difficult technology which asks for a lot of money, we make small steps. So we deliver. I think that's the vision we have, to make it safe for everybody.
Yeah, I think a lot of investors, especially in the early stages, are looking for at least technological validation
Yes.
and some commercial validation.
Exactly.
And both of those you should
Yeah.
be able to establish.
Yeah.
I can imagine if you have like smart people and engineers, that the technological side, you can make it work. You need money for it,
Yeah.
though. So, but grants and subsidies are
Yeah.
really focused also on that part. But on getting this product market fit, how do you do that in these early stages?
Yeah.
And prove to the investors that there's a market for
There's a
it and
market.
that they're willing to pay.
Absolutely a challenge.
Yeah.
I think for all of us. Our product was originally developed by Boeing, actually, for space and defense applications. They worked 10 years on it, and we have the exclusive license worldwide. So it's logic for us to go to the first market, which is the Dutch military.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing today. So in Q1, we launched the first 2 products, especially for microgrids. It's a storage facility for microgrids for the defense industry. But parallel, I'm working on larger markets because the defense industry is a very small market. It's a niche market, good for launching. So it's good for my first steps for the financial proof. But commercially, they don't believe I will become a big company if I focus on that. So in meanwhile, I'm busy in parallel to more commercial markets. And there I have to work on the legislation because storage is quite difficult. But what I do, I work together with a few launching partners, and they're in the e-logistics market. So this is in my company. It's for metro and trains and fast charging places for cars and buses. Metros and trains is a stable market, so it's already there for years. So they know what they need, and that's for me more easy to access. But the fast charging market, that's also a growing and developing market. So it's very turbulent. They might need me, they might also need something else.
Yeah.
And they don't know yet themselves what they need. So that makes it that to reduce the risk also for the financiers, I focus on the most robust market, which is now metro and train. But in my head, I know I need to also enter the EV fast charging market to get the larger volumes. So that's the steps we're following. So first product is where it was originally for, very small market. We introduce it next year, then go to the metros and trains, and then EV fast charging.
So if I summarize, you have a clear go-to-market strategy with some clear steps that
to deliver.
Also validate the commercial side of your business.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Maybe also good, Nathaniel, if you can share a bit, because with Tilt Capital, you're investing in Series B plus companies, so really the growth stage. How you look at these challenges and how you would also assess the go-to-market strategy from an investor perspective.
Yeah, sure. So,
yes?
So thanks first for explaining your approach on your development. Very, very sensible. So maybe just first to react on legislation. I think, I mean, I agree with you. Sometimes legislation moves slowly, where startups are very quick to set up their business model, their product, and they want to deploy. I think on the other hand, we have the chance collectively to be in a very favorable place in Europe. So climate change, it's clearly, and the fight against climate change is clearly accepted by everybody here. And now I think on a global scale as well. And regulation is clearly pushing to help companies addressing this challenge.
Yeah.
Today, I mean, there is at the European level, there is the clean energy package, there is the Green Deal, so channeling many capital to the energy transition. I think so. For us, there is also new regulation. So for financial players, so the SFDR, so the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. So fighting against greenwashing, basically. So it obliges all the financial people to disclose on what basis they are investing and also on the portfolio companies they are invested in, just to disclose and prove that the way they invest is in line with the objectives. And basically, I think that that brings also an advantage to the companies like yours that are clearly addressing the issues. So I think that's favorable.
Yeah.
And also with the homogenization of the European market, because there is a single regulation applying to all countries, that also creates a market a single market that you can address. And I think that's also a competitive advantage when you enter the scale-up phase that US companies may not have, because in the US regulation is super fragmented. You have areas where it's fully regulated with no unbundling, other areas that are fully liberalized, and so you have all these things. And in Europe, when you have the product and the approach, you can develop very fast. So I think I think that's very helpful.
Right moment, right place. What you say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on storage, I mean, us at Tilt, we fully agree with the need. We have two investment verticals. So one is energy efficiency, because obviously the best energy is the one that you don't use. And the second one is flexibility, basically, because we start from the fact that renewables will continue to develop at a very steep pace, and that to allow for this penetration, you will need a lot of flexibility solutions for the grid and for the system, because renewables, as you know, are not dispatchable, in the sense that you cannot pilot the way it produces. So it puts stress on the grid, and then you need to either to reinforce the grid, but then the energy transition is not affordable for all. It will cost a lot, and the alternative to that is to make the grid smarter, more flexible. So either at the production side, you can add storage, or you can met at the grid level with aggregation and smarter solutions, or at the demand level with demand response and so on. So, yeah.
And if you look at the challenge and also this go-to-market strategy, as an investor, how do you assess the risk that it might fail? You know, that they might not succeed in entering the market successfully, or going after defense to the bigger market. How do you assess that in the evaluation if you invest in a company like Quintech?
Sure. So on our side, so we would invest at a later stage, as you were saying. We are a growth capital provider.
Yeah.
So basically, we enter when the technology risk is behind us, and what we take is indeed the commercial risk, so the growth risk, so commercial and industrial, and to make the assessment. So obviously, that's not the easy part. That's why we believe really in sector-focused investors, what we are, and to make the assessment. So you need to analyze. I mean, I'm just stating the obvious, but you need to analyze the competitiveness of the solution, the use cases, to what extent it's relying on public support. So public support is not a bad thing. in the sense that nearly all technologies in the energy space have been supported by public money at some point, but you need to assess the risk on how it can evolve, what happens if policies change. So that's a lot, and it's also a lot about execution.
Yeah.
So having the right product and the right strategy is good, but you need to be able to deliver on it.
Yeah.
So speaking with the team and being comfortable with it is also key for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
And
Okay.
that goes both ways, as
Yeah.
you were saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe Ulrich, to also let you join into this discussion. I'm wondering, with BayWa Renewable Energy Ventures, you're of course strategically related to BayWa. Do you also use the core business as a way to validate potential investments?
That certainly plays a role, but it depends on the case. So where we see that an operational unit can add some value or can contribute to the evaluation of the company, we try to do that. We cannot always do that. Sometimes startups are also active in different fields, or they are even active in a competitive field or competing environment to our business. There it's getting a bit more tricky. In general, our whole investment approach is certainly not a strategic one, but where we can add value from the business units to the startups, we try to do that because we want to leverage the value of the investment itself. In certain cases, we also have operational managers in our investment committee when we believe it makes sense, but it's not necessary. We do not need any operational buy-in.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And maybe to also tap into something that Daniel said. Often in early stages, a lot of startups and scale-ups are reliant on grants, subsidies, governmental money, especially in this sector. How do you think over the lifetime of a startup and also in the evaluation for an investment, this reliance on governmental grants should be assessed? Leon, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in general, when you take a few steps back, I think that when as European Union looking to the energy transition and we look back what is happening, then I think there is quite some money spent on areas where it maybe should not be spent, like putting up a lot of solar in the Netherlands, for example. It's not the most sunny country in Europe. So I think, and that's also about innovations. So I think when we look to the bigger picture, where we want to be in 2020 or in 2050, then that will be a complete different system as it is today. And when you, with that perspective, look to innovations and what innovation can contribute to that in transition, I think then Europe should put a lot of more subsidies on that part. And of course, things are happening, so I'm also not complaining, but I think it could be more effective. And we did with one of the Start Green funds, we did an investment in a flywheel technology in the Netherlands. So we had quite some experience there. Yeah, it was also, I've been with the prototype. And yeah, we did. I had the feeling that it could work, but I was also not sure. And I think there also public funds can play an important role to have your first commercial products ready. And that's, I think, also when you look to Quintech. One is, or we agree fully that there is need for flywheels. So no doubt about that. And but yeah, how do you sell your first products? How you make your next steps? You're talking about different segments, but maybe you should also look at different countries. Some countries are more advanced in the energy transition than others. So maybe in Italy, you will find more easy clients than in the Netherlands or in other countries. So I think that's important, but for sure public financing plays there an important role.
Yeah.
And I think also you see a lot of private initiatives in this sector, but in the end, what you see also the last weeks, it should be affordable, and then it's always the government who should take care of that. So I think that also people are getting more aware that although we are a liberalized sector, that the government plays an important role in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it will, in your opinion, and should, in your opinion, also play a role?
Yeah, I think so. I was when I remember the early days when I started working in the sector, when it was still fully public owned. You could doubt if how this transition would look like when there was no liberalization and regulation. Maybe that would even be a more effective transition. But I'm also not sure. So, and we cannot do it again. So,
Yeah.
but I for sure, I think public plays an important role. And it will be. And that you also see, for example, in some other regions like Southeast Asia, where the public part is still playing an important role. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other opinions on the public side?
Yeah, well, maybe it's good to share also a vision upon that. The energy transition is not only transition from, for instance, fossil fuels to more sustainable fuels like solar or wind. It's also becoming from consumable demand, everything is delivered on demand, towards a new energy area where it's supply regulated, in fact. And that it's also more sustainable and circular. And that's maybe a different topic, which is also a question for my other colleagues here on the panel. We are developing a product which is circular. So it lasts, you can use it for over 30 years. The materials are circular, so after life we can reuse everything. It's very easy to recycle. Because I have the vision that when we are through the energy transition, the new products we use are not like consumable products. You use them and you throw them away. So now we design the new products in these specifications. But the difference is also that if you start with a new product, it's a challenge from my side. So I ask your opinion how you can help me or whatever. But so I start with a new product which lasts for over 30 years. And now I'm on the moment that I have to prove that it works. So do you share the vision that we should go to more circular products and long sustainable products that you can use for years and years? And what is your advice or your opinion how to finance that for me as a startup or scale-ups like me in future? Could you tell me about that?
Thank you. So you're actually looking for also maybe financial structures to make sure that you now already can finance the whole life cycle or part of the life cycle of the innovation.
Technology is changing, market is changing, so also investing markets are changing. And I'm looking on this particular example what those changes could be.
Anyone? Ulrich, maybe you can join in.
I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly. Of course, there are different solutions for the matter. So when I think about long-term financing, what pops up in my mind is also venture debt. Is that something which could be suitable for your company? Did you think about that option already?
Thinking, but not so much more, yeah?
They are much more experienced and better equipped for financing working capital needs of companies at a later stage. What I hear now is that your company might be too early for such an option, but it's something that you can grow in, and the sooner you have this option in your mind, the better you can adapt what those players need and would like to see to finance you.
Thank you. I think in the market also you see quite some sale and lease back
Absolutely.
constructions. I
Yeah.
think that could also be could be an interesting way
Yeah.
because you in the end have a hardware technology that
Yeah.
could be leased. That's a way to
Oh
finance.
yes, that's for sure there. You could rent it or lease it,
Yeah.
but there are all kind of as a service types of financing models that could be developed in this. And storage can be seen as storage, but also maybe as the power plant itself. And who in the new value chain is the one who's able, but also most interested to own it and invest in it.
Yeah.
And it's just that I ask what's your vision on that,
I-
especially when you have durable products.
Yeah, I think I would really focus on having it in applications. I think a flywheel is not a standalone thing, so it's closely connected to the net, to the grid, microgrid solutions. So there, I think a big question is, what do you deliver as company, and what is a system integrator delivering? Are you doing, or are you the system integrator? I think that's important, and I would really see 10 flywheels in the market on real life cases. I think, and then you also better understand, I think, what is the real added value in these different applications, and how these clients value other aspects of the system. So I think, especially in the stage that your company is in now, then I would really love to see 5, 10 flywheels in the market the next 2 years.
Absolutely.
In different applications. And yeah, and I as an investor, I also understand that will not be the final product in 10 years time. But yeah, I want to see it work. Yesterday I was at a booth of Horizon 2020 programs. There was an island, and they have all kind of new technologies on the islands. And it would be there was a battery solution. Would be nice to see there also a Quintex solution on that island, and see that's working. And I think that's there I would focus on the short term. And the more products you have in the market, the more you will also learn, and helps you to develop your next product.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a big trend and a changing value chain. I was wondering if some of you also can show some other trends that are visible in the energy tech space. Do we see specific new innovations upcoming, industries or markets that are rising? Maybe good to start with Nathaniel on it.
Sure.
Which trends do you see currently in the energy sector?
I think there are some trendy trends first that attracts a lot of attention and capital. So, namely hydrogen. So, I think it's really the buzzword of these years. So basically, if you look at the companies that have products related closely or more remotely to hydrogen, they manage to more easily to raise funds at healthy valuations, and basically that's because there is a global push on hydrogen. So that's one trend that is very clear. Although the economic rationale is very clear for some use cases around heavy mobility or things like that, but not on all use cases that are valued by the market. You have also a lot of attention to electric mobility. So in the energy space, that translates into all the businesses that are related to EV charging, so the charging of the electric vehicles. I think that's the two very top trends. And then I think around flexibility, as I was saying a bit earlier, I think the topics are heating up in the sense that with all these renewables coming to the grid, there is a stress on the network. So storage solutions with batteries lithium-ion batteries first, but all the other solutions,
Yeah.
they attract a lot of attention, that's for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
And also, I think in terms of typology, so a clear trend is digitalization and decentralization of the system. So you have a lot of software companies entering the energy market with tech investors also coming in. I think that's one key feature. And deep tech, and we were discussing that a bit before the panel, but I think it was quite tough to finance a few years ago, and now there is clearly more appetite for that. So
Thank you. And how do you see this software play, right? So as you state, there's also a lot of interest now from tech investors in the software energy affiliated companies. I assume with Tilt you not merely have a software focus, but also invest in hardware solutions.
Yeah.
Are you interested to invest in software? And if so, why
Sure.
or why not?
No, sure. That's clearly part of our strategy. So at Tilt Capital, we are business model agnostic, if I may say. So we can invest in developers. So companies developing assets such as renewable assets, storage, or so on. We can also invest in manufacturers and thirdly in service companies, be them with a clear software tech
Yeah.
angle or not. So we will definitely have software companies in our portfolio, but that's not our only focus. And clearly, depending on the kind of business models we are looking at, it's clearly not the same kind of potential investors that we meet in the rounds and in the investment processes.
Thank you. Ulrich, how is this for you? What trends do you see in the energy sector, and does this impact also your investment strategy?
Yes, kind of. I mean, topic-wise, from a technology point of view, all the mentioned areas are clearly the trends in the market. I have nothing to add there. But if you think about the whole financing environment, we also see trends there which are very interesting for startups and also for early stage investors. Because what is happening is that a lot of later stage investors, growth investors, also PE companies, they have the tendency to start to invest earlier. And that brings a lot of capital, especially to the mid-stage and growth stage phases, which was notoriously in the last years an area where there was not enough funding. And for me, this is a very important development to help the companies grow and exploit their potential. But it also offers a different point on what is the typical role of an early stage investor in this whole cycle. So, for example, it could be more interesting for early stage investors to position themselves as a highly trusted source of high quality deal flow, which is offering also secondaries if that is suitable and is not hindering the equity story of the startup itself.
Okay, thank you. Leon, do you recognize this trend?
Yeah, I think I think I still see another trend. Like I agree with hydrogen and with EV. I think it's also the awareness of the system change, and I think that's where traditionally when we are talking about hardware investments in energy, then we were looking to new types of wind turbines or new types of solar panels. I think with the awareness that that's not about the different generation concepts, but it's much more the system. I think there also comes in that that solutions that you are offering, that there will be a growing interest. I think yesterday we had an interesting discussion also with Enel, and then more the grid part of Enel. And there you see that they are also offering grid solutions in other countries. And then it's not only about technical solutions, but also asset management concepts and so on. So there you can imagine that looking to the future, also in that part will be quite some innovations and a kind of, how it's called, maybe you do not have to go there to sell your product, but they will come to you and say, hey, so that you have an interesting startup. Yeah, let's see what we can do together. So I think that's also, I think maybe there will be much more pull also from the potential clients, I expect.
Okay, thank you. So if you talk about this system change, what type of innovations do I think about? Because for me,
I
it is
think
not clear immediately.
managing supply and demand, I think, is an important one, and that can be at a bigger level with industry players, but also at a smaller level with prosumers, consumers. So I think there is still a lot to discover and to. So you can say, yeah, that's also a little bit. What's the philosophy of your company? Do you want to be now in the market, sell your company in 5 years' time and stop working? When that's the philosophy, then maybe you have to be very selective where you go. When you look more, when I like to contribute to the energy transition, and I really love my solution, and I think that maybe will give you another path. So it is, and I think there's no. I think when your solution is really working, then there is also money available. So it's not. I don't say it's an easy game, but it is. It's not that it's impossible. So and there will be clients. So it's. But yeah, doing it, that's another story. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe to go to Margien, because we know that capital markets are there, money is there, but often as a starting company, you don't only require investment from from an investor, but we're talking about smart capital. And I would like to hear from you. You say you are raising also your Series A and announcing your Series A round. What are you looking for in an investor aside from funds?
There should be a good click, and that's also that sounds very easy, but that's when you're so small, the impact of an investor can be huge, and not only financially. So there should be a good click. So first of all, there should be good contact. And what are the expectations? It's not only delivering money or receiving money. It's about what vision do you have with the money, on both sides. And I see in the past, but my former jobs, I see that sometimes went wrong. So we made for this time a very, very sharp selection, and we have the full trust that we make the right step. But again, we're a kind of modest in a sense that we're taking not huge steps. We're taking step by step. So there's a lot of room to evaluate. Is this still fitting with expectations? And that also fits with the trend I also see, adding to the trend we just mentioned here, is that because it's from centralization to localization, you see also a trend towards more smaller, modular or granularity of solutions. And for me, it's a positive trend because that enables me to, with smaller products, to make a first step, proof, check also with my investors and go to the next step. And this is the first step of a Series A. When it's going well, in 1.5 years, we go to the second part of it.
Yeah.
So that is also encouraging that vision we have.
Yeah, okay.
I guess that's the biggest part of my
Thank you.
vision on that.
Maybe looking also to the investors. So what do you provide to the startups in your portfolio aside from capital? Do you bring in network? Do you bring in customers? Do you bring in support, operational support, the director seat? Maybe Ulrich, you can start.
Sure. We want to bring in everything that helps the startup grow and develop its value. That's very, very clear. That's in the pretty early stage. That could be also a kind of personal support, helping the founders to deal with the expectation, also make them aware what the expectations are in the next funding round, and
Yeah.
making them aware that as soon as you close a round, you're preparing the next one. You're not doing it necessarily on an operational level and directly starting after it, but you do it on a strategic level all the time. You're creating your storyline, and you have to fill that story with actual business successes now, and traction, how we say. That is one side. On the other side, we like to support operationally with sales cooperations, if that makes sense for both sides. That's very important for us. It needs to make sense for both sides. We do not want to have the startup being independent from the corporate structures or vice versa. There must be a business rationale behind it. And then we're setting up those cooperations. I think that's the biggest part how we can support. Of course, we are having a board seat and contribute there on a strategic level and bring the experiences which we gained over the years with other companies we are seeing or what we are currently seeing in the market. Yep, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Leon, how do you support companies in
It's
your
really
portfolio?
depending also what they needed. I think the company, the startups should be leading there, and then I think there we can help. And so much, yeah, we're going very far, and especially when things are not going that well, then I think they even try to help more. But in the end, it's also like you're mentioning, it's about the click with the investor, but it's also the click with within the team. And yeah, you can help a lot, but in the end, it's the startup that should really make the steps.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's important. But
So,
that could be in technology validation, or helping them with customers, or helping them with bringing the company to the next level. I think there is a lot to do. And some startups, I was working with it's Empiro, BTG, BTL. They make from biomass, they make oil with pyrolysis, quite an innovative process. It was a long ride before we joined them, and then after 1 year, when the commercial plant or the pre-commercial plant was available, then it was not working that well. So we really dived into the technical details and also tried to help them there. And when you then look back after 5 years and you say, yeah, I think it was money and time well spent, because now they have sold their third commercial product. And yeah, we really help them from a laboratory scale to several commercial products. And I think that especially that was with the public fund. I think we are quite proud of them, that they made the steps and that we could help them in the different challenges that they met. I think that was maybe one extreme one. I also know startups that need less help, and then also as an investor you should take your hands
so you're
off,
not gonna sit on the seat of the entrepreneur, but if there are challenges, you you try to bring in the expertise that you have and the network. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, of course. Another topic to address. I think we're all here, fortunately, but COVID-19 has been holding the earth for the past 2 years. And I'm actually curious to talk with you about the impact of the crisis on the energy sector, and especially on the investment landscape in the energy sector. So do we see effects in, I think, valuations, liquidity? I can name a few trends, but I would like to also hear it from you. Ulrich, can you start?
Sure. I mean, from my point of view, COVID was kind of helpful.
Okay.
There's even more capital in the market now, which is very much directed towards the reduction of CO2 emissions. I believe that is great. I believe that's the right thing to do. The question is, are there enough startups? Is there enough technology which is being developed to absorb this huge amounts of capital within a short period of time? I have no doubt that this is possible in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge we are facing is just too huge. It's certainly suitable to direct this huge amount of capital into that direction.
Yeah.
The question to me really is, also coming from a fundamental point of view, how high are the valuations, and do they still relate to the potential of the company, to the revenue potential, to the future earnings? And here I have a very clear answer. I absolutely believe that, because you cannot only think, when you talk about valuations, about the pure relations between revenue to equity value or market value. You also need to think about the huge social costs we are facing with climate change. And this is somehow also being reflected in the valuations of the company. I believe that's an indirect but strong effect. I believe that is absolutely rational. And for the first time, we are seeing a global community, or a global community of politicians, of governments, of countries working together towards one goal. And it's a great development, and COVID helped us also a bit in that sense. You could also see COVID as a kind of test. How good are we in cooperating on a global level, facing a big problem? And we have exactly the same situation with climate change.
Thank you. Margien, how did COVID impact your business? Because
Yeah.
I think on the other side, potential investments in innovative solutions are actually paused because everything is uncertain. Or did you not experience this?
What we experienced was the risk for delaying performance, because it was harder to get the team together, because it's harder to meet people. And that's one of your base pillars, your team, to getting your people with you. Secondly, our supply chain has been delayed. And I guess a lot of, maybe everybody suffers from that. But for us, in being a small company, we need just a few but special components. 6 months delay is really a huge delay for us. And that's increasing risk. So that's what we were facing. At the other side, it encouraged us also to become more to the point, more direct, because we have to meet a lot of people. And in fact, it's maybe the same as Ulrich is also mentioning, but it's also giving you like a push. If you really believe in your product and in your markets, then go for it. Otherwise, it's like you will hold back.
Yeah.
So in fact, it's also maybe shifting you from the one who are going and the ones who are maybe still searching.
Yeah. Okay, so
At least
it also provided answers.
yeah, and
for-
it made us more direct, and in fact choose to speed up, make a smaller step to go faster to the market, to deliver, to make the product, like you also say, Leon, to deliver it on the market, show the products in the markets.
Yeah.
That's what we will do in Q1 next year. But at the other side, yeah, also managing the delay in our supply chain, which is, I guess it's hard.
Yeah, I think
I
a
cannot
lot of companies
yeah,
are
suffering
facing
from
that challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have, as a small company, you have absolutely no power to speed it up,
Yeah.
that up. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, Nathaniel, how do you see this also increased valuations? Is this a bubble, or are the actual valuations, like Ulrich says, also reasonable? And do we think it fully shows the potential of the companies in terms of revenue and
Mm. But honestly, it's always difficult to say whether it's a bubble before it bursts, right?
yeah.
But I think yeah, there are some sectors that are potentially overvalued, but for most of them, I think it's just the incorporation of the long-term potential that there is. So in this sense, I agree with Ulrich. Also, the COVID and Ulrich was alluding to it. So it increased the liquidity a lot. So I think it's impacting the startups and scale-ups in the sense that the entry into the public markets is facilitated these days, either through IPO or combination with a SPAC. So and that can happen earlier on than what was possible a few years ago. So it's clearly a change in the market. I'm not sure it's sustainable. But today it's a reality.
Okay.
And yeah, and on COVID, as you were saying, I think financials and results of the companies have all been affected by the COVID crisis for many obvious reasons. And then as an investor, that doesn't mean that the company has no potential. It shouldn't change a lot the potential, but it's making things sometimes a bit more difficult to assess, because you need to differentiate what was just a temporary effect to what can be a lasting issue. So
yeah, I think also in terms of financials and maybe rising costs, for supplies, will they stay at this level? Will they even rise higher? That's a difficult decision, and it impacts in the end also the potential returns of a company and EBITDA margins and everything. So yeah, okay. I have a few more minutes, and I'm wanting to look in the audience if there is any question, statement that you would like to discuss with the panel. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but if so, please raise your hand, and I will try to listen carefully. Is there a question for any? I think yes. I think I can hear you, and I will repeat the question. Yeah. Yeah, so if I can repeat your question and understand it correctly, please let me know. The question is public money in earlier stages actually beneficial if you look from it from an investor point of view, or not? And does it help a company to raise money? And how do investors assess this? Who would like to answer?
I'd
Leon?
like to answer. I think it really helps. I think in that early stage is quite maybe a very challenging stage, and then when you have an investor or public money available that is really supportive, then it really I think helps to develop the company. And I hope when the public money is in, then there will also be products in the market. So you can also, as a second investor, you can better look where you invest in. I think there's.
But what is better, if a company has been able to prove its model without any grants or subsidies, or does it actually prove that that's your question, right? Does it prove that there's a demand?
I think when you invest, you have to look at that moment. So but when you look to Quintech or other more capital-intensive renewable energy solutions or smart energy solutions, I think it's very difficult to get private money in from day one. I don't know how long you developed, but I know companies that developed 4 or 5 years before they had their first product. So how do you overcome such a state with a financial investor that is looking at the shorter term? I think there is really the added value of public money. and that can be offered in different ways. And
So there's certainly added value of getting grants in.
of course, when you say it the other way around, when you have a software startup in the energy segment and they need 10 years development with public money, yeah, then you can doubt if this is the best opportunity. Yeah.
And maybe to add on that, it certainly helped us. I'm not, of course, speaking for all the startups, but in my case, it did help. Though we also have the vision not to stay with that forever. So it's a stage you were in, and in my case, it helped because I could make all my first steps. And while having governmental support, I also could get support from other sources. That's why I'm now going to Series A of tomorrow. But it's also a stage you have to leave at a certain moment. And when that is, that will be very different. And maybe you have even a vision on that. I don't know, but it's like you said, it's in the first challenging years when you're, especially when you have technology which is quite expensive, where you need some extra, money to cover all the risks and all the investments.
Okay, thank you very much. Does it answer your question, sir? Yes. Any other questions from the audience? No. Then I would like to use the last minutes to make a closing round with you panelists. I would like to thank you for being here, and also the audience and Enlit for organizing the event. So Margien, thank you very much for also giving this startup perspective in. Yeah. We'll start with you with the closing round, because I started with you also introducing.
Thank you.
If you have to say, like in the next 30 years, what innovation do you think will be developed and can be storage? Could be storage in your perspective, but one big innovation that do you think we really need to progress in this energy transition, which will allow us to make the next step?
I directly think about the word flexibility, but flexibility is high-tech storage, but it is also flexibility in financial sources. It is flexibility in working together, because that's the conclusion from my from working last years in energy transition, and I see it also here, even on stage, but also on the Enlit. It's about finding new ways to cooperate, because it's not like a linear value chain that you have a kind of process and you work together in a certain cadence. No, it's like coming together. It's really like acting together today, and not 1, 2 parties, but it might be 5, 6 parties together. And also there you need flexibility. So I guess
flexibility is a word we already heard a couple of times.
We all have to focus on that. And then I think in 30 years we have changed in all our behavior to become like that. And I think we're then in our transition, new area where the energy is different. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Margien. Leon, closing words, which
I think
innovation we need?
Or innovation, or I think globalization. I think that we are, when I think about startups, Silicon Valley, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe that was the place to be. I think now for sure it's Europe, but maybe when we are 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead, then also there are other regions that are much more active. You said human capital. I also see these developments in Europe who likes to do a really hardcore technology study. I think people from India, they like to do that, and they come to Europe to learn it there. So maybe also when you look to startups, then the next boom in startups is not in Europe, but is really in Southeast Asia, India. And there you see that a lot of things are developing, awareness of climate change, but also social media, how that impact how the youngsters look at the transition. I think there it's good to watch also that trend,
Yeah.
that we as Europe also contribute to that trend in a certain way, but also use where we can work together.
Thank you.
That's interesting.
Okay. Nathaniel.
Yeah. So on my side, I think nuclear fusion.
Okay.
If you think 30 years ahead, I think I hope it will really be a game changer. There are many startups out there working on it, having made some breakthrough. So they're not yet there, but within 30 years, I'm hopeful it will be a key contributor to the energy transition. Although at Enlit Capital we cannot invest in this for the moment.
Okay. Thank you. Ulrich, what big innovation do you think we need to make this step in the energy transition in the upcoming decades?
None. We have everything that we need. What we need is a global collaboration and scale up the solutions which we are having.
Thank you. I think that's very interesting. So we need flexible solutions. We have to look at the emerging markets. Perhaps nuclear fusion will be, and scaling existing solutions, and that will actually bring us forward in this energy transition. Panelists, thank you very much for the discussion. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course the audience for listening in, and Enlit again for hosting us here. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you during the event today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.